1-year-old male child brought by his mother with a complaint of poor stream while micturition since birth, recurrent episode of fever since 6 months, and crying while micturition since 6 months.
Okay. So, does the child have any signs of failure to thrive, like in terms of nutrition, in terms of feeding? He has any?
Yeah, she's talking about his micturition. So you also first finish that. Yeah, it's an important point about nutrition and all, but it comes at a little later time.
Okay.
What about micturition do you want to know? What is the meaning of poor stream?
Poor stream means in terms of a thin stream, or the volume itself is very less.
Is that so? Is the volume less considered as poor stream? What do you want to define when somebody tells you poor stream? What do you want to ask? More specific.
Ma'am, thin stream only we ask.
Yeah, so is the stream like a thin jet of water, or is it in drops?
Drops, interrupted.
Yeah, interrupted. And why is he crying during micturition? What do children do when they cry during micturition? Have you seen a male child crying during micturition?
No, ma'am.
Do they do anything else apart from just crying? How do you know that a child has got a problem in his urination when he's crying?
That's a very nice question.
You know that a child has got a problem with his urination when he's crying. He's crying, you don't know. Children crying, maybe abdominal pain, maybe something else, gas. But how do you know the problem is related to
They try to pull at the penis.
They pull at the penis. Yeah. And indicating to the mother here, man, this problem is here, not anywhere else. So they do.
They pull at the penis, and that is the indication. Otherwise, what can a 1-year-old child tell you? He is just at that point saying mama, baba at the most. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So crying during micturition, poor stream, recurrent episodes of fever for 6 months.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you want to ask about this?
Whether any documented evidence for any pyelonephritis has happened in the 6 months?
Not pyelonephritis. Documented evidence of urinary reports, no? Pyelonephritis is pretty, that you can ask in different way, not a report. How will you ask for pyelonephritis?
Flank tenderness, I think was there at that time.
More than flank tenderness in a 1-year-old child, 1 year.
This is a sure shot case in the exam. Sure shot case in the exam, I'm telling you. You must be upfront with this. Just fat, it should come as though you're just vomiting it out. Gives the examiner no choice.
Any urine culture sensitivity reports that would have documented an infection in the past 6 months?
No, we were talking of pyelonephritis. How will you ask history of pyelonephritis in a 1-year-old male child? That is right. We spoke about it. Now, urinary reports, any reports are there to suggest infection. You are right on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Pyelonephritis, what is the cardinal symptom of pyelonephritis?
Flank pain.
No.
In a child, 1-year-old child, flank pain, very difficult for the child to say, I've got flank pain, no? But something else happens to the child. Have you seen a kid with a urinary tract infection? A 1-year-old kid with a What is it called as? Febrile UTI, isn't it?
Yes.
Febrile, not just you. The word febrile is a prefix. It's a serious
Febrile. Yeah.
Febrile UTI.
The child will be having
is pyelonephritis unless otherwise proved.
a high grade fever. They could be having chills. It could have required an admission. These are indications. So for when the patient gives you history of repeated episodes of fever, then you have to ask whether it was associated with this urinary infection. Was there fever with chills? Was it high grade fever? Was the child admitted? What has happened? So all these things are important before your nutrition. This is all I want to emphasize.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Now ask.
One more point generally for residents. When you have a child who's got a bacterial infection, they are very, very sick. Remember that. They are much sicker than when they have an ordinary upper respiratory infection, URI. A child, if you see a 1-year-old kid with a serious febrile UTI, they'll be zapped. Be listless, literally half dead, they'll be vomiting, they're not eating. They just disappear in seconds. So you have to be upfront versus a viral infection. Activity goes like this in a bacterial infection. Child is just listless. Very important to ask the mother that. And invariably they will take the child to the hospital because they cannot manage this with tepid sponging at home. So take the child to the hospital and then they will say, you ask, all this history comes out. How many days hospital, IV was given, antibiotic. Ask the mother, she'll tell you all this. They are not, mothers are very smart. They know exactly what's happening with their baby. That too in this country, male child. Very important, all these things. So you have to be upfront with all these little things, knowing what the history is. Yeah.
So as we said in the chief complaint, her mother complained that the child is having poor stream of urine and also associated with suprapubic fullness and associated with crying. There is a history of recurrent episode of fever which are low grade, multiple episodes in 6 months for which some medication was started, and he is on some medication for the same. Otherwise, there is no history of pyuria, lithuria, no history of ballooning of refuse, no history of flank pain or trauma, and there is no history of failure to thrive, anorexia or evening rise of temperature, and no history of constipation.
One more point which is there, which I want to emphasize again in history. You must take this history. Spend a little bit more time with the mother to take the history because physical findings may not be there. It's a history which is paramount. And when you have a child, then poor stream is a presenting complaint. You ask the mother how the child is passing urine. If the child is 1 year old and lying in bed or smaller than that, you know how the urine stream comes? Have you seen the child, urine stream of a baby? How does it come? Does it come forward or does it go backwards? Does it go towards the feet or does it go towards the head of the baby? It goes towards the feet, is it? You seen a baby passing urine? Be careful. You go to pediatrics, but and you have a child, it will hit you on your face. Child comes like this, the child is like this. So ask the mother. And if
It's
this
like
is second child, they will be very smart. Tell you the same stream, how was the first child, the second child, how was the urine. If it's the first baby, then it's okay. Ask the mother, how is the stream? Is it backwards or is it? Like that. Very, very astute. These are all important signs which you see when you do clinical medicine. And very important for us from urological point of view to ascertain this. Because it tells you whether the child is having a real problem with nutrition. Okay.
See, the child passes urine like a fountain. It goes high up.
Yes.
Okay, now in relation to this, you tell me what extra things you want to know. History is not complete.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I also would like to know, it was mentioned that some medication was taken by the child, whether it was under admission and parental antibiotics were started for this child.
Uh-huh. No, we don't have that history. Some tablets the child is on. Okay. Anything more you want to know?
Very important.
1 year.
Very important.
In terms of the stream, ma'am, poor stream, whether there was some interruptions, any intermittent bladder emptying was done for this child.
How is emptying bladder emptying? Intermittent bladder emptying means what?
Sometimes the child wouldn't have some difficulty in passing. Complete evacuation wouldn't have been possible.
So
Whether they have tried to catheterize the child.
ask specifically what do you mean by saying intermittent this? You can be very specific. Was there a
Yeah, ask
Did
CSS.
the child take to hospital? Did they pass? Did they put a tube? Did they not? That we have specific questions, not just shoot something in the air and expect that the examiner figures out. Oh, that's wrong. You can't say that intermittent bladder empty. 1-year-old baby, how will they know this? Must relate the question appropriately to what you want to get the answer.
Okay, we'll give you that history later about whatever medical or surgical management.
Any other important history you want to ask?
History now, history.
Very important.
Because that is the most important thing in any child you should ask.
I would like to know about the birth history,
Okay, what about the birth history?
birth weight, and whether any hyponephrosis was detected antenatally.
Yes, very important. Whether the child had any, whether the mother had any sonography. Tuesday, most mothers have. So you ask.
I would like to know about the antenatal history, ma'am. Any ultrasound which was done in the antenatal period, documenting any nephrosis.
No, there was no antenatal follow-up of this patient. It was a home delivery, full-term normal vaginal delivery, and it was uneventful. Baby cried immediately and does not require any intensive care support.
So what do you think is the socio-economic status of this patient? Very good. So what happens, you think, if very poor child? What else is likely to be the consequence of that?
These kind of children can go before.
What about the mother? If the mother's health is poor, the baby's health is going to be poor. Everything goes. Lower socioeconomic. That's why no antenatal history. It's very sad. A very sad fact in this country that there is one group of patients, one community that suffers as a result of this. You and I know which group that is. So it's very important to get all this information. You're living in this country, so you should know all these facts.
Yeah, but still some history has not been given. History is not complete.
At birth, any intervention was done at that.
No intervention, no major surgical medical illness has been, no medical intervention. Apart from that, or probably we don't want to tell you, apart from that, see, is the 1-year-old child, what do you think can be the most common cause for his problems at 1 year of age? Congenital will be on top of your list, right?
Yes, ma'am.
It won't be malignancy, it won't be metabolic, infective is possible, but yeah, second on your list, right? It will be congenital. Something congenital will be more common at 1 year of age.
Yes, ma'am.
So if a urinary tract anomaly is in place, what are the associated anomalies or congenital things you need to look for? What?
Any lung complications that the child had, any respiratory.
अरे लंग छोड़ देने वो ही इज नॉर्मल ना फुल टाइम नॉर्मल डिलीवरी डेवलपमेंट नॉर्मल माइलस्टोन्स नॉर्मल something which he has not told you what are the associated things huh क्या spine
Spinal exam.
huh most
May I
important
mention?
right
Yes, ma'am.
was there any swelling on the back was there any problem related to the back you need to ask
Yes, ma'am.
yes man don't forget in the future
Got examination. History
It's
itself.
history.
Yeah.
How did you know that the child had a swelling in the back when they were born? How did you know? You see, the problem is, I'll tell you what. In your mind, you have decided this child has got posterior cerebral. That is the mistake you are making, Prasanna. That is why you are not thinking beyond posterior cerebral. Am I right or am I wrong? In your mind, you have already decided this child has got posterior cerebral. So you are not discussing beyond. As beyond spinal dysrhythmism, aneurysmal anomalies, anything. Everything. It must be all there in your radar. And slowly, though, the history works out. When you have all these possibilities in mind, then you will figure it out.
Constipation, they are not smokers.
Whatever. At 1 year of age, child will not say it's constipated. I only ask the mother whether there is constipation. Child does not know it's constipated. At 1 year, it's not yet trained. It takes 3 to 4 years for that circuit to develop, isn't it? What will the mother tell you? You want to have a history of constipation.
If she's giving any medication to evacuate.
No. The evacuation medicine before that. You don't give medicine upfront. You give the medicine after something happens.
She's
Not
not
when the
taking
mother
feeds
says.
properly.
He's taking feeds properly. He's taking feeds. He has a mother. But when you had a baby, you don't know this. Maybe you didn't. You left the job to your wife. The stool, man. The constipation. The child will ultimately the child has to pass motion at some point, isn't it? It can't be pent up without motion for 6 days. They'll be struggling, they'll be having pain, they'll be having colic. And sometimes the mothers will have to put the finger and take the stool out. Because they know that this is what it is. This is even before the laxatives are given. All this drama happens at home. If not the mother, the astute grandmother is there. So everybody is concerned in India about the back passages. Isn't it? For 2 days you don't pass motion in the ward, you have motion varla. It's the first sign. They don't bother about it. Motion. First take care. Now you take it down. The finger take notice. Okay. Very important history, all this. Exam, sometimes they will ask all, especially when they have 1 year old child. I'm telling you, it's your short case. Just keep. Carry on.
There is no history of any back swelling or any abnormality in the back. On examination, the baby is conscious, alert, febrile at present. His weight is 7 kilograms. Vitals are normal. There is no pallor, and the examination is normal. On per abdominal examination, abdomen is soft, non-tender. However, the urinary bladder is palpable midway between the umbilicus and symphysis pubis. There is no ascites or no any other finding. Other systems are within normal limit. And the local examination is normal. External urethral meatus is visualized. Prepuce is retractile. External genitalia are normal. And anal tone is also normal.
To summarize this chart.
You know what you want now. Summarize. Yeah, you said. Summary now. We got all the findings now. You say. And be bold when you're talking now. You know you're going to get ready for the exam. You shouldn't be sitting shy and you must be upfront and bold. You wanted to speak loudly and clearly.
Yes.
After the history, I would like to summarize. Don't ask the examiner, shall I summarize? You just go, summarize the history, this is what it is. And therefore, I think this child has got this. Okay. Yeah.
1-year-old male child, full-term normal delivery, with recurrent episodes of febrile UTI from the time of birth in 6 months, and with no any history of any surgical or surgical intervention, with normal examination.
The most important symptom you left out there. 1-year-old child with poor stream, febrile UTI, full-term normal delivery, blah blah blah, has a bladder which is palpable.
Palpable bladder. My first differential, I would like to think in terms of posterior urethral valves. And, my second differential would be vesico-ureteral.
Be careful, think very carefully. Think very carefully before you say vesico-ureteral reflux. One of the examiners just walked away. So that can happen in the exam. That's a cue. It's not that he wants to go and pass urine, but that his candidate he said, my question is you said vesicular reflux. That is palpable. Maybe up to the upper leg. Is that the first diagnosis? Second diagnosis? Post-delivery reflux?
Anterior.
Okay. First of all, in your mind, you have to think of, is this an obstructive cause or a non-obstructive cause? Non-obstructive. Can this be neurovesical dysfunction?
No constipation.
Constipation. Anything else more important? They told you physical finding. Spine is normal, no. There's no deformity in the spine. If there was an obvious deformity in the spine, if there was an obvious swelling in the spine, if there was a tuft of hair, if there was something else which would suggest spinal dysraphism, then you can say yes, maybe. But in the absence of all that, can't even consider neurovesical dysfunction in this patient. What you can ask is, when did the child last pass urine? It's very unlikely that the bladder will be so full in a child, midway to the umbilicus, and not pass urine if the child is not. But at this point, they are passing urine. They are passing urine.
The child passing urine now?
Yeah.
Child is passing urine.
He's passing urine. Yeah.
Is there any meatus stenosis?
No, they mentioned normal.
How will a child with an anti-urethral valve present? How will a child with anti-urethral valve present?
Present with the ability to pass urine.
In addition to that, you want to know something more definite about anti-urethral valve. What is anti-urethral valve usually associated with? What is anti-urethral valve usually associated with? It will signal to you, yes, there is a power problem there. And you got this. Meatus stenosis. No, not meatus. It is associated with an anti-urethral diverticulum. Right? This is because of the dynamics of the valve, the vortex effect. So the urethra becomes the diverticle up there. You will be able to see the diverticle. And you press on that, you examine the urine will drip out of that. So there will be a swelling, there will be a bulge in the perineum when the child passes. Mother will look. In the absence of any other finding, in the absence of any findings, at the moment, you know that there is only one diagnosis here. The spine is normal, everything else is normal. You think it's vesical calculus? You don't want to think of vesical calculus. No. Child is having difficulty passing urine. Huh? Huh? Difficulty crying during micturition, febrile UTI, and be vesical calculus. No. Bladder is palpable. Or maybe jamming at the bladder neck. Ultimately passing urine. Our country is cannot be in the United States of America. Certainly in our country. You have to think of all these possibilities. Yeah, what do you do now? Proceed. Jata there?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm just listening.
Okay.
Yeah, same things crossed my mind, especially bladder calculus, because the child is pulling at the as if the crying during micturition is a very common thing.
Yes, ma'am. And now I would like to go for the investigations like urine routine, urine culture, serum creatinine, and electrolytes of this child.
HbCbC.
Yes, ma'am. CBC, sorry, ma'am. CBC also. Hemoglobin.
So the urine, this is urine routine microscope. It's showing 5 to 10 pus cell per high power field.
Bacteria. Does she have any?
What important points you will look after in urine routine microscopic examination in this patient?
Mainly the first, in these kind of cases, I would like to see only the bacteria and the pus cells mainly. Apart from that, the osmolality of the urine.
Yes. So do we do urine osmolarity in urine routine microscopy routinely?
Specific gravity will come under.
Yes.
Routinely you're not doing.
Why?
It is a cumbersome procedure, and for routine analysis, specific gravity will suffice.
Yeah, sir is asking why we will look after a specific gravity or as a urine osmolarity. What is the significance, sir is asking?
What are these parameters and indication as far as renal function is concerned? Which aspect of renal function are there? Or shall we say, which aspect of renal function is related to osmolarity, specific gravity, pH? Which one? Tubular function, right? So, what is the indication of?
Your diagnosis was posterurethral valve, na? Can you correlate the two? So, is there tubular dysfunction in posterior urethral wall?
Yes, ma'am. It is one of the
How?
features of renal deterioration that can happen. Glomerular injury and tubular injury can occur as a result of PUE.
Which occurs first?
Which occurs in posterior urethral wall?
In PUE.
The tubular happens.
Tubular.
Tubular injury happens. So,
Yeah. So,
proteinuria.
How does it manifest clinically?
how does tubular injury manifest clinically?
Patient will have edema.
Edema.
Edema is glomerular, Baba. Tubular.
You're talking of tubular. What is the first function of the kidney that is lost in renal problems? What is the most important function? Huh?
Filtration.
What is the important function? Kidney. You're talking kidney, the tubules and the glomeruli. What is that function that is lost? Earliest. First and most important.
Reabsorption.
Acidification, Baba. Think very simply. The kidney is an engine for maintaining the pH and acid-base balance in the body. And it is aided by all sorts of other things. But the most important function is acidification. If the acidification function of the kidney is lost, that kidney is going to be in trouble. So once acidification is lost as a consequence of tubular dysfunction, how will the child clinically present is what matters. Haven't you seen these children? What will they present? What will the parents say?
Small,
Huh?
like acidotic breathing.
Acidotic. That is when they have renal failure. Acidotic breathing. That is failure to get the pH corrected. That is in pretty good advanced renal failure. But just isolated tubular dysfunction, how would the child present? The child may also have normal creatinine in many of this. The creatinine may be normal.
So with polyuria, such a child will present with polyuria.
Polyuria. And more than polyuria, what is distressing is nighttime, nocturia, nocturnal polyuria. Significant. You're getting up at night 10 times larger. This is the problem. In the daytime, the child is awake, running around, passing urine under any tree, the parent doesn't know. But in the night, when everybody is sleeping, this fellow is going on to the toilet. And also, as a result of this, nocturnal bedwetting. Because its bladder fills up so rapidly. And as a consequence of this, what is the next step that happens? This large volume of urine that the child is producing. What can it result in? What can result in?
Polymorph.
What will the child, what will the imaging result in? To be more easy for you. What will the imaging show? If I do an ultrasound on the child legs, what will it show?
The incomplete emptying of bladder.
Oh. Have you heard of this term called megacystis, mega-ureter syndrome? It's one of the consequences of this. That large volumes of urine are being produced by the kidney, the ureter is not able to take the load, it just dilates, you get dilated tortuous ureter, the bladder becomes distended. So you have this huge pile of dilated system, bladder distended. And this is what is called snub. Isn't it? What is snub? Expansion. What is the expansion of snub? SNOB. Oh, you guys have just finished your theory, man. What is this? Not heard of it? Syndrome of nocturnal over-distension of the bladder. This is the reason. And this is why we treat these children by nocturnal catheterization. Put a catheter, keep the bladder empty. This is the concept. Wow, this is all very fundamental stuff I'm asking you. Huh? How many webinars have been taken on post-nasal valve and all the last 1 year? Ikawai, next.
This is a CBC of the child. HB is 10.7, WBC is 17,900. Serum creatinine is 1.4. Sodium and potassium levels are within normal range.
Rates are within normal. Creatinine. What is the upper limit of the creatinine in your lab for the child?
Sir, this lab doesn't give upper limit for the child. It was 1.2 the upper limit.
What is your opinion on that value? Forget the lab's upper limit, but what is your opinion on that value?
What is your first impression of 1.4? Normal, high? इतना ही बोलो बस हाई बस
Yes.
ठीक है आगे देखते हैं. What else do you want?
I'd like to see the ultrasound of this child, abdomen of this child, abdomen pelvis.
Okay.
This is ultrasound KUB. It is showing bilateral hydronephrosis with hydroureter with a distended and thick wall bladder with moving internal echos. On the right side, there is a thinning of the parenchyma. And on the right side, the echogenicity is raised and the differentiation, corticomedullary differentiation is lost.
The images are there.
No, we don't have USG images.
Any information you want?
Just the. I just wanted to see the appearance of the parenchyma on the right.
Okay, okay. Nothing else you want to know?
Apart from this, ma'am, residue. How much was there? Since it was mentioned that the child is passing urine, how much was the residue post-void?
Acha. Anything else you want?
The thickness of the bladder, pre-void and post-void.
Okay. Yeah. Something more? Ureter you want?
Ureter, it was mentioned ureteric dilatation was there. It was mentioned.
Where is it mentioned?
Anything more?
Dilatation is extending up to the bladder.
Yeah, you want to know how much dilated is it? Is it very grossly dilated, tortuous?
Tortuosity.
Okay.
Yes.
CMD lost, maintained, yeah.
Kidney size, all very important. Why is it
Parenchymal thickness, na?
very important?
Yes, parenchymal thickness on both sides.
Yeah. Okay. Now what more? Anything more you want to do, or you want to have some more investigations? Considering his blood reports and these findings, will you proceed for investigations, or you will stop at this point and do something?
I'd like to catheterize this child.
Okay.
And watch for the fallen creatinine after at least 2 weeks. And then reassess the child after 2 weeks, ma'am.
In between, you don't want to do anything? Just show him his blood reports. What are WBC counts?
I'd like to start the child on
They said no, the ultrasound is showing debris, internal floating stuff in the bladder, you know.
Internal echoes, debris, count
Sure.
is high.
Any urinary culture available?
Any
So-
urine culture available? No, no.
But start the child on antibiotics.
In the absence of urine culture, which antibiotic will you give? 1-year-old child.
1-year-old child, we could give
Create 1.4.
trimethoprim, sulfamethoxazole can be given, or cephalexin.
Will you give an oral antibiotic or will you give a parenteral antibiotic?
The child is having febrile episodes. The
Child has
recent,
had, no?
not recent,
Whatever is had. Child hasn't got clear of it.
6 months.
Hasn't got clear of it.
Show ultrasound report. See, if the upper tracts are showing internal echoes, it's not a simple thing. It's not a simple UTI. It could be a infected hydronephrosis. It is serious, right? Count 17,000. Are they normal?
It's elevated.
Okay. So what else do you want?
After the initial treatment, we would like to get a DMSA scan for this child.
You need a
DMSA scan.
You're just going to now put a catheter and give antibiotics. That's all. And then you'll go for DMSA scan.
Not immediately, sir, after the acute episode has.
But the problem is in the bladder, right? You were thinking of posterior urethral valves, right? So DMSA scan will tell you what?
Tell about the scars on the kidney and also the function of both the kidneys. In terms of differential function, it will give.
So does it give you the answer to the diagnosis?
Yeah, it doesn't give you an answer to a diagnosis. You're not wrong, but does it answer your basic problem,
No, ma'am.
which the child needs to be treated for, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm.
So after starting antibiotics, we should have planned for a cystoscopy and assessment.
Before cystoscopy.
Cystoscopy is an invasive thing. It will require anesthesia. 1-year-old child.
Before cystoscopy, what do you do?
Radiologically,
Still we could,
How will you establish the diagnosis of posterior urethral valve in this child?
micturating cystourethral.
Say that, man. MCU. Why are you hesitating in saying MCU?
The antibiotics.
you're given, we said
You
not
gave
treated.
antibiotics, good catheter, all that. Now next you have to make diagnosis, no? You went on to DMSA. Nobody is denying DMSA is incorrect. But that's not the approach. You want to get the diagnosis first. So you'll do a posterior valve. DMSA will be, nobody saying no. We didn't say you don't have to do it. You have to assess the functional state of each kidney. But you want to do a maturity system, you have to establish the diagnosis. The longer the catheter is there in the bladder, the longer is the problem with the child's urethra, isn't it? You want to get on with it. दिखाओ, MCU दिखाओ.
These are the MCU films of this patient. Passive.
There is a small notification in the lower end of the PowerPoint. Can you hide that, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you show the first image?
Yes.
First one. Next one. The next one. These are series of plain films and contrast films. This 1-year-old child with maturating cystourethrogram. Plain film, the bony architecture appears to be normal. There are actually glass shadows, especially in the sigmoid region, and the epiphyseal plate is
Are these gas shadows important?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Use of preparation as well as
not a question of preparation. It tells you something more.
bowel dysfunction, constipation of the child is there.
Yeah, you have to keep it in mind that yes, there were lots of the transverse colon, the ascending colon, all were nicely broadly distended. Okay, talk about the bladder and everything. Spine is normal.
Yes, the spine is normal.
Sujata,
Yes, sir.
I'll just go down. Some VIP patient has come. I just want to see if you carry on.
Okay. So
The bladder appears, the contrast is filling up the entire bladder. There appears to be no diverticula, but the bladder appears to be trabeculated, and there is a grade 5 reflux on the right side with the ureteral tortuosity and blunting of almost all the calyces. And on the left side there is a grade 1 reflux.
grade 1.
Yes, ma'am. Only it's filling up only the ureter only, ma'am. We are not able to visualize the kidney.
What are those two dots?
Some
In
calyces.
grade 1, is the ureter dilated and tortuous like this?
No, ma'am, no tortuosity or
Yeah, so obviously it can't be grade 1. Only if there is, even if there is only ureter is filled and suppose you don't see the PCS at all. Here you can faintly see it, but even if you don't see, you have to infer that in the presence of, yeah, it is grade 5.
Yes.
There may be not adequate amount of contrast reaching the PC system, or the PC system may be so dilated that it is not fully filled with contrast, or there may be secondary PUJ, so many things to it. But a dilated tortuous ureter definitely indicates grade 5 reflux.
Bilateral grade 5 reflux.
So what is the type of reflux is in this child is seen?
Bilateral grade 5.
Okay, grading you told me, so obviously I'm asking you something more than that. Show him the first film, please. In full bladder also. You are seeing the reflux, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Show him the straining film. Here also you are seeing the reflux. So what is the difference? What is the inference?
Based on the pressure you were asking, ma'am. Pressure reflux, low pressure reflux like that you were asking.
Okay. Okay, comment about the bladder. Now your diagnosis was posterurethral walls. Your diagnosis is confirmed or excluded?
Yes, it is. There, we can see a narrowing, especially at the prostatic base of the prostatic urethrum near the bulbomedullary junction, and there is posterurethral dilatation.
Okay.
But there is some contrast which is going distal to the constriction.
Yeah, so it may go, na?
Some contrast is going beyond that.
Yeah, patient is voiding, so it will go.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is your diagnosis? Or you want to give a differential diagnosis? What do you want to talk about the UV junctions? Can you tell me? On both the sides?
It's UV junction. um, Actually, both sides the UV junction is patterless, ma'am. That's why we are getting reflux even during voiding. It's getting pattern.
And
And
if it is patulous, why is it not visualized?
I don't know, ma'am.
Why is it not visualized? See the left one. Now comment on the posterior urethra.
Uh, Here the VU junction on both sides is not appearing. I mean,
Yeah, why? Yeah.
VU junction.
Before answering now, you should think of what are we actually saying. Because in one sentence you say patulous, other sentence you say it's not visualized. Okay, comment on the bladder neck and posterior urethra.
The bladder neck appears is not wide, ma'am, and posterior urethra is dilated.
What is this picture suggest you of?
Is of
So the classical description is with a in the posterior urethra is dilated with high bladder neck, and there is a abrupt narrowing at the posterior urethral wall, and it looks like a spinning top. Bit,
What are the features, radiological features of posterior urethral wall?
some dilated posterior urethra, high bladder neck, high bladder neck,
Is it high bladder neck or something more?
opened, widely opened bladder neck.
Open. See that picture which you are showing here?
No, in this picture I am not seeing opening of bladder neck. There is narrowing at the bladder neck.
That opening is not seen.
elevated bladder.
Huh? Why is that opening not seen?
Because of bladder neck hypertrophy,
The terminal ureters are not seen.
because thickened bladder wall and bladder neck hypertrophy.
Hypertrophic bladder neck, elevated bladder neck. So at that point of time, the bladder neck looks narrow. It doesn't look dilated. So there's a hypertrophy. Dilated posterior. Now what else?
Trabeculated bladder, there may be presence of multiple diverticuli. In this case, the VUJ is not visualized properly. There is a secondary reflux with passive reflux on right side and active reflux on the left side. And bilateral grade 5 reflux are present, secondary reflux.
What will you say about the bladder?
The bladder, in this picture, we can say that the bladder has low capacity. However, in full bladder, sir, on passive fully filled film, sir, cannot comment, especially in this case also, sir, because of high grade reflux.
So you cannot comment on the capacity, but if at all you have to comment, on which film will you comment? Is what is Dr. Bhushan is
Full,
asking you.
full phase when the bladder is full, passive phase.
Yeah, so you were talking on a
I was
training
talking.
film, so that will not be indicative. But all it will be indicative is what? If there is some amount of phosphorus residue.
Yeah.
So all these things you need to talk about whenever you see this MCU. So say everything in one sentence, in one go.
So this is a voiding cystoerythrogram. On the plain film, the bony shadow and soft tissue shadow appears to be normal. The bowel is distended. On the in the full phase of the film, the bladder is well distended. There is a passive right-sided grade 5 reflux. The bladder wall appears to be trabeculated, and the capacity appears to be normal. This is a voiding phase in which apart from the previous finding, the posterior urethra appears to be dilated. There is an abrupt narrowing in the posterior urethra. There is right-sided grade 5 reflux and left-sided grade 5 bilateral grade 5 psychouretic reflux, probably a secondary reflux. On straining, the bilateral grade 5 reflux are well visualized, and there is a significant post-void residue in the post-void film. So these findings are most likely suggestive of bladder outlet obstruction due to posterior urethral wall with bilateral vesico-ureteric grade 5 reflux.
You need to talk about that bladder neck hypertrophy. Because definitely this is one of the film which is showing that the bladder neck is thickened. It is hypertrophy. That is why it is looking narrow.
Yes.
And the UV junctions are also looking narrow because of the hypertrophy. Okay, so what would you do now?
So I would.
What can we do? Ask him what is his plan.
Yeah, so ma'am is asking what further management will you do for this patient? Hello.
Yeah, I can hear. After this MCU, I think we can plan for a scopy and valve ablation for this child.
Okay. Any other investigation you want? You wanted DMSA, no?
Yes, ma'am. But
Sure.
This
DMS
is
is
a TMSA scan. The upper part of the images are the anterior images, and the lower part are taken from posterior view.
anterior. The right kidney doesn't appear in the images. Probably it's totally non-functioning.
It is labeled, no, right?
Not visualized.
Not visible.
Not visualized.
Okay.
And appears to be having very poor function. Even in the left kidney, there are some photopenic areas which are visualized. And
So kidney or the right kidney is not visualized. The left kidney appears to be enlarged, maintaining some reniform shape, and there are multiple photopenic areas, especially in the mid pole and lower pole. The differential function, the left side is 98% and right side is 2%. patient underwent cystoscopy. On scopy, there was a posterior urethral wall which was fulgurated. And the bilateral ureteric orifice were not visualized. We were not able to visualize the ureteric orifice.
So these are the scopy findings.
The child is on
So what-
catheter position.
Now, what would you do? Would you keep the child on catheter? What would you do? Or this is the end of treatment?
At least I'll keep it for at least a week, 48 hours minimum.
Okay. After that?
After that, you will assess the, we'll remove the catheter and watch for voiding.
Uh-huh. After that?
After that, we would like to do a MCU after 3 months.
No. See, what are the problems in this child as of now? Identify the problems. Then you will be able to talk about management better. One you identified was that posterior urethral wall is a probable diagnosis. You got the scopy findings. You did the treatment for it.
Yes, ma'am.
What are the other problems in this child?
A right poorly functioning kidney.
Okay, right poorly functioning kidney. What else is there?
Bladder, elevated bladder neck with trabeculate
Okay.
bladder. So,
Trabeculated high bladder neck. Okay, what else?
we reassess the creatinine also, ma'am, because child might be
Okay, so creatinine or renal function. What else are the problems?
the left side kidney also has a grade 5 reflux, ma'am. So the
Grade
child
5
needs
reflux.
continuous antibiotics.
Okay, what else? Where else is the main problem? In posterior urethral walls, how do we define the problems?
Based on the renal involvement, bladder.
Yes. Okay, renal involvement. Then at the level of the bladder, what all things do we look for?
Need to assess. These patients can go for.
You need to know whether there is the level of obstruction. No?
Yes, ma'am.
In the kidney, what are the problems? You tell me when a child is diagnosed with posterior urethral wall. What are the things you can, you should look for or you should think about?
And these children, they can go for glomerular injury, tubular injury can happen, dysplasia.
Oh, yeah, tubular injury, dysplasia. Then
And some children, they
microcystic disease. What else at the level of the kidney?
urinoma can happen after a fornicial rupture.
Okay. No. We are talking about not a patient with urinoma, normal posterior urethral wall patient. What are the things you should look for? Then there could be secondary PUJ obstruction due to a dilated tortuous ureter. Okay. In the ureter, what are the problems?
We could get a VUJ obstruction also.
There is a dilated tortuous ureter which doesn't empty completely or doesn't show proper peristalsis. There could be VUJ obstruction.
Ureter.
Yeah. Then in the bladder, what are the problems?
Bladder, it can neurogenic
What are
bladder.
the types? Okay. So what are the types of problems of the bladder in posterior urethral wall?
It can go in for myogenic failure or
That is
detrusor
the end.
collapse.
That is the end. शुरू में
Gallbladder syndrome can happen as a consequence.
Something more.
Overactive bladder.
Overactivity. Okay, what else?
Overactivity can happen.
So myogenic failure and overactivity. In between, there are certain more things which can happen. Okay, at the level of the bladder neck. Hypertrophy and obstruction at the level of the posterior urethra. Obstruction.
Obstruction can happen, recurrent obstruction.
Okay, so now if you need to get answers to all these questions which have been identified.
Yes, ma'am.
Then your management will be complete. You have only done one part. You have
Only we have done.
updated the rudimentary valve. Finished. That is only one thing you have done. You have to address the bladder neck, the bladder, the ureters, the UVJ, the pelvis, and kidney, and give the child the solutions for each part. Then
Yes.
your management will be complete. I think it is 9:45, so we will stop at this present, but I want answers for all the questions I have asked.
Okay, ma'am.
Because
Yes, ma'am.
post-operative management is most important in posterior urethral valve. This is not the end of the story.
Yes, ma'am.
No, it is the beginning of the story.
Yes, ma'am.
And always try to enumerate in your mind what are the problems, which areas I should think about in this child and address them, and how do I come to know them, and what will I do to prevent the progress or treat the problem. Then you will get answers for everything. You all should always think in this manner. Posterior urethral valve होने के बाद he is saying remove a 48 hours. That's not an answer, no. You do not have answers for everything. That we should know. What are we thinking of? What do we need to do? Now we see out of the person, no?
In this patient, ma'am, we will, after catheter removal, we will see whether patient is voiding well, whether we will do a USG PVR, the TVR is significant or not, and how is the flow. If, as well as serum creatinine to look for whether the renal function is deteriorating or improving. If the flow is still poor, we can add alpha blocker because most of these child have bladder neck hypertrophy. For which alpha blocker is usually sufficient. Then at 1 month we will repeat the voiding cystoerythrogram to see whether there is any residual PU wall.
1 month to repeat
3
that
months.
1 month.
3 months.
Why is 3 months?
Somewhere it could be written.
First of all, see, again you still not understood the approach at all. You need to know your problems, then you will be able to find answers for it.
Then further down the line we
Bladder
will
neck
have to do
obstruction, I agree, is
UDS.
one thing. You have to address it. Okay, you said alpha blockers initially, okay. Initially alpha blockers is accepted. What about the bladder?
Or if we have to do UDS at 3 months, if there is suggestive of overactivity, then we have to add anticholinergic.
So you need to know the bladder problems and you will come to know them on a UDS. You will know whether the capacity is normal, whether the compliance is normal. Because of bilateral reflux, it will be difficult to know the capacity. But yeah, you can get an inkling about the compliance and diffuser pressure. This is one. Then whether there is UV junction obstruction, don't we talk about supracycle diversion in PQRs? Where else do we talk?
When the patient's creatinine is not improving, if there is further renal deterioration, then we have to think in terms of bilateral UJ obstruction.
For the kidney, how will you find out what are the problems?
For screening, we will do ultrasonography.
Ultrasonography you did. Now, what more will you do?
EC scan.
Why EC scan? DMS scan is done.
DMS scan is done.
So how will you find out about the other problems in the kidney?
First of all, serum creatinine, urine serum creatinine. Then what is the output of the patient? 24-hour urine output of the patient, urine routine, the specific gravity, pH, whether it is and proteinuria, whether it is present or not. It normally suggests renal dysfunction in this patient.
What else? Can't you do anything
Ultrasonography,
beyond that?
parenchymal.
No tests are there beyond that to tell you the problem. What are the other things possible we can do? Right? How will you come to know whether this patient has dysplasia? Have you seen the left kidney? Size
No.
mentioned on ultrasound is 7 centimeters. How do you come to know?
Okay, we have to do CT
What are the signs of dysplasia or on radiology?
increased ecogenic area, presence of cysts.
Or any cyst? What is it called? What is the name given for it? What do you think? So first you enumerate the problems, then think how you redefine the problems and see whether what you have learned in theory is really there or not there. Once they are there, then you need to address them in various manners. Suppose this kidney is dysplastic, then what is the treatment? What is the use of any treatment for the rest of the things? Bladder, ureter, कुछ है फायदा? नहीं ना? You know what is their progress, what will happen in time, and what should you advise the parents, right? If the bladder has, if the kidney is okay, good parenchyma, whatever it is normal, then you need to talk about what you are going to do for the ureters and their drainage. Then what about the bladder? How are you going to improve its function? Is it improvable or not? From there you have to start. Then at the bladder neck, you have started with alpha blockers. If it is not, then you have to talk about DNI. If you talk about DNI, you should know what are the pros and cons of DNI. Both the ways you should know. There are people who say don't do it. There are people who say it is useful. So you have to form your opinions after reading literature or seeing whatever you see here. Then again you have to keep a watch on the posterior urethral valve because your fulguration is not the end of the problem. What are the complications related to fulguration of the valve? How will you follow them up? How will you keep a watch that they are not happening? All these things you need to know. Then you will get answers to this question. Especially in posterior urethral valve, it is not a disease of the posterior urethra at all. No? The entire thing you have to talk about. So write down all the things that you feel. Write down what investigations you are doing for that as per literature and then what can be done for it.